High Counselor Vex Prime adjusted his ceremonial crown for the third time in 10 minutes, watching the shuttle dock through the observation bay. Another human exchange student. How thrilling. The Galactic Educational Council had been hosting these primitive bipeds for exactly 47 cycles now, and frankly, Vex Prime was getting tired of pretending their presence mattered. "Sir?" His aide, a nervous Zolonian named Pip Forth, hovered nearby with a data pad. "The human's documentation has arrived." "Let me guess," Vex Prime sighed, his four eyes rolling in perfect synchronization. "Another wide-eyed youngster here to learn about our advanced civilization and go home with stories about how amazing we are." "Actually, sir," Pip Forth's tentacles twitched anxiously. "Her name is Maya Torres. Age listed as 24 standard years. Academic focus. Interspecies diplomatic relations." "Diplomatic relations?" Vex Prime's laugh echoed through the chamber like grinding metal. "Oh, how precious. They think they can understand politics when they can barely manage not to blow themselves up every few decades." The shuttle bay doors hissed open, and Maya Torres stepped into the reception area. She was unremarkable. Brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing what appeared to be standard human casual clothing, and carrying a single travel bag. No fanfare, no entourage, no dramatic entrance, just another human. Vex Prime straightened his robes and approached with his practiced diplomatic smile, the one he reserved for beings he considered intellectually inferior. "Welcome to Nexus Station, Miss Torres," he announced grandly. "I am High Counselor Vex Prime, Director of Educational Exchanges. You are privileged to be studying at the most advanced institution in the galaxy." Maya looked up at him with curious brown eyes. "Thank you for having me, Counselor. I'm really looking forward to this." Her voice was calm, steady. No stammering, no obvious awe at the magnificent architecture surrounding them. "How disappointing. I trust your journey was comfortable." Vex Prime continued, already mentally rehearsing his evening report about another mundane human arrival. "Long, but interesting," Maya replied, shouldering her bag. "I had time to review the station's operational protocols. Quite impressive, really." Pip Forth's eye stalks perked up. "You studied our protocols during travel?" "Just the publicly available ones," Maya said with a small smile. "Though I noticed some inconsistencies in the resource allocation data. Probably just clerical errors." Vex Prime's diplomatic smile tightened slightly. "Inconsistencies? What inconsistencies?" "The Council's resource management was flawless, a model of efficiency that other civilizations could only dream of achieving." "I assure you, Miss Torres, our systems are quite perfect," he said, his voice carrying just a hint of ice. "Perhaps human understanding of such complex matters is limited." "Oh, I'm sure you're right," Maya agreed cheerfully. "I'm still learning, after all." As they walked through the gleaming corridors of Nexus Station, Vex Prime pointed out various achievements of Council engineering. The gravity regulators that maintained perfect atmospheric conditions across 47 different species requirements, the quantum communication arrays that linked 17,000 worlds, the cultural preservation chambers that housed artifacts from civilizations spanning millions of years. Maya nodded politely at each explanation, asking occasional questions that seemed innocuous enough. How many maintenance cycles did the gravity systems require? What redundancy protocols existed for the communication arrays? Were the preservation chambers regularly audited for security compliance? "You ask many technical questions for a student of diplomacy," Vex Prime observed as they approached the residential quarters. "I find that understanding how things work helps me understand how people work," Maya replied. "Systems reflect the societies that build them, don't you think?" Vex Prime paused mid-step. That was actually quite insightful, for a human. "Your quarters are here," he announced, gesturing to a modest but comfortable suite. "Classes begin tomorrow. You'll be attending Introduction to Galactic Governance, Advanced Interspecies Protocol, and Resource Management Theory." "Resource management?" Maya's eyebrows raised slightly. That sounds fascinating. Who teaches that course? Counselor Bryn 7, our Director of Planetary Resources. A brilliant mind, though perhaps too advanced for most exchange students to fully grasp. I'll do my best to keep up, Maya said with that same small smile. After settling Maya into her quarters, Vex Prime returned to his office feeling vaguely unsettled. Something about the human bothered him, though he couldn't quite identify what. Her questions had been reasonable, her demeanor respectful, her credentials adequate. So why did he feel like he'd just been examined? Pip forth, he called to his aide. Run a deeper background check on this Maya Torres. I want to know more about her academic history. Of course, sir. Anything specific? Everything. The next morning, Maya attended her first class, Introduction to Galactic Governance, taught by the pompous counselor Rax 9. The lecture hall was magnificent, designed to hold 500 beings from various species. Maya took a seat in the back, her small human frame barely visible among the towering Zenturians and floating ethereals. Rax 9 began his lecture with his usual grandiose introduction about the Council's perfect system of governance, how they had achieved what no civilization in galactic history had managed, true universal peace and prosperity. The key to our success, Rax 9 proclaimed, his voice echoing dramatically, is our merit-based selection system. Only the most qualified beings rise to positions of authority. Nepotism, corruption, favoritism, these are primitive concepts that have no place in our advanced society. Maya raised her hand. Yes, Rax 9 looked mildly surprised. Exchange students rarely participated so early in the semester. I was reading about the Council's leadership appointments from the last cycle, Maya said. I noticed that 63% of new positions went to beings whose family members already held council positions. Is there a particular reason qualified candidates tend to come from the same bloodlines? The lecture hall fell silent. Other students shifted uncomfortably. Rax 9's complexion changed to a deeper shade of purple. That is simply coincidence, he sputtered. Exceptional families often produce exceptional offspring. Of course, Maya nodded. Though statistically the probability of such genetic clustering of talent across multiple species would be approximately effectively impossible. But I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Rax 9's 4 hands clenched into fists. Perhaps humans should focus on understanding basic concepts before questioning systems they cannot comprehend. Absolutely, Maya agreed with that same serene smile. I'm just here to learn. Word of the exchange spread quickly through the station. The human student who had asked uncomfortable questions about council appointments. By the time Maya attended her resource management class that afternoon, half the faculty had heard about the incident. Counselor Bryn 7 was ready for her. Ah, Miss Torres, he said as she entered the classroom. I've heard you have curious tendencies. I like to understand how things work, Maya replied, taking her seat among a dozen other exchange students from various civilizations. Excellent. Then perhaps you can explain to the class why the Council's resource allocation system is the most efficient in galactic history. It was clearly meant to be a trap, a way to embarrass the presumptuous human. Bryn 7 expected her to stumble through some inadequate explanation that he could then tear apart with superior knowledge. Instead, Maya stood up and walked to the display board. Well, she began, activating the holographic interface with surprising ease. The system is certainly comprehensive. You manage resource distribution across 17,000 worlds, handling everything from basic survival needs to luxury commodities. She began pulling up data streams, her fingers moving across the controls with practiced efficiency. The allocation algorithms are sophisticated, accounting for local environmental factors, population dynamics, and economic capacity. Very impressive work. Bryn 7 preened slightly. Thank you. Now, can you identify why this system is superior to more primitive approaches? Actually, Maya said, still manipulating the display, I noticed something interesting in the efficiency reports. If we cross-reference the resource allocation data with actual planetary productivity statistics, new charts appeared on the display showing discrepancies between reported resource distribution and measurable outcomes. It looks like approximately 18% of allocated resources are unaccounted for. The distribution reports show delivery, but the receiving planets show no corresponding increase in availability. The classroom was dead silent. That's Bryn 7's voice cracked slightly. That's impossible. Our tracking systems are perfect. Oh, I'm sure they are, Maya said, returning to her seat. Like I said, I'm still learning, probably just misunderstood the data. But the damage was done. Those numbers were now displayed for everyone to see. 18% of resources across 17,000 worlds for who knows how many cycles. The mathematical implications were staggering. After class, Bryn 7 immediately contacted Vex Prime. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "This human isn't what she appears to be." "What do you mean?" "She just performed a cross-analysis of our resource data that took my best analysts 3 months to complete. She did it in 15 minutes during a lecture while pretending to be confused about basic concepts." Vex Prime felt his stomach sink. "Are you saying she's some kind of spy?" "I'm saying she's dangerous. No exchange student should have that level of analytical capability. And her questions, they're not random. She's targeting specific vulnerabilities in our systems." "I ran her background check," Vex Prime said slowly. "Human educational records, diplomatic training, nothing unusual. Then either the humans are hiding something, or we've been played." That evening, Vex Prime called an emergency meeting of the Inner Council. 7 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered in the secure conference chamber, their faces grave. "Explain to me," said Supreme Counselor Yex Prime, Vex Prime's superior, "how a single human student has caused this level of concern." Vex Prime activated the chamber's main display, showing Maya's academic activities from her first day. The questions about resource allocation, the statistical analysis of council appointments, the real-time data analysis that had revealed significant discrepancies in their distribution systems. "She's not behaving like a student," he explained. "She's behaving like an investigator." Councillor Grix II, the ancient head of intelligence operations, leaned forward on his walking supports. "Have we considered that she might actually be both?" "What do you mean?" "Humans are tricky," Grix II said thoughtfully, "more cunning than we generally give them credit for. What if this exchange program isn't what we think it is?" "You're suggesting the humans are conducting espionage through their students?" Yex Prime's voice was sharp. "I'm suggesting we may have underestimated their capabilities." Rax 9 burst into the chamber without ceremony, his usual composure completely shattered. "She's in the archives," he announced breathlessly. "The restricted archives. Level 7 access." "But that's impossible," Vex Prime snapped. "Exchange students have level 2 clearance at most. Tell that to the security sensors. She's been there for 2 hours. The council members exchanged alarmed glances. Level 7 archives contained sensitive historical data, classified operational reports, and detailed analyses of council governance methods. No unauthorized being had ever accessed Level 7. "How did she get past the security protocols?" Yex Prime demanded. That's the problem," Rax 9 stammered. "She didn't break in. The system shows she has legitimate access credentials." Supreme Counselor Yex Prime rose from his seat, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber. "Someone granted a human student level 7 access and none of us authorized it." "Sir," Pip Forth's voice crackled through the comm system. "I've completed the extended background check on Maya Torres. Report. Her academic records are authentic but incomplete. I can verify her enrollment at human educational institutions, but there are significant gaps in her activity logs. Periods of months where there's no record of her presence anywhere." The council chamber grew cold. Furthermore, Pip Forth continued, I cross-referenced her biometric data with our diplomatic contact databases. Sir, Maya Torres has attended 4 other council educational exchanges over the past 6 years, each time under a different identity. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Are you telling me, Yex Prime's voice was dangerously quiet, that the same human has infiltrated our exchange program multiple times, and we never noticed? It appears so, sir, and each time, shortly after her visit, the host institutions underwent significant administrative changes. Vex Prime's mind raced back through recent history. The Trade Council reforms 3 years ago. The Resource Management restructuring 2 years back. The Ethics Committee overhaul last cycle. All had followed investigations into corruption and inefficiency, investigations that had seemed to come from nowhere, targeting problems that supposedly no one knew existed. Get me a security team, Yex Prime ordered. Bring her in for questioning, now. But when the security team reached the Level 7 archives, Maya Torres was gone. The access logs showed she had left 30 minutes earlier, her clearance credentials mysteriously reverting to Level 2 status as if they had never been higher. She was found in her quarters, peacefully reading a textbook on interspecies protocol. Miss Torres, Security Chief Kral 8 announced as he entered with 6 armed guards. You need to come with us. Maya looked up from her book with mild curiosity. Is something wrong, Chief? You've been accessing restricted areas without authorization. Have I? Maya set down her book and stood up. I'm sorry, I thought my access credentials were appropriate. I just wanted to do some research for my classes. Level 7 archives are not appropriate for student research. Level 7? Maya looked genuinely confused. I'm sure I was only in the general reference section. Level 2 access, right? That's what student credentials provide. Kral 8 checked his scanner. It clearly showed Maya Torres, student exchange participant, Level 2 access only. No record of any higher clearance. No record of Level 7 entry. But the archive's internal logs told a different story. Miss Torres, he said carefully, would you mind explaining what you were researching? Just background on council governance structures, Maya replied. For my introduction to Galactic governance class. Professor Rax 9 suggested we familiarize ourselves with historical precedents. And what did you find? Maya smiled that same small, innocent smile. Lots of interesting information about how the council evolved over time. It's really quite fascinating how systems adapt to changing circumstances. Something in her tone made Kral 8 deeply uncomfortable, but he couldn't pinpoint what. Her words were perfectly reasonable, her demeanor completely cooperative. Yet he felt like he was being mocked. You'll need to come with us anyway, he said, for routine questioning. Of course, Maya agreed readily. Should I bring anything? As they escorted her through the station corridors, Maya chatted pleasantly with the guards about various aspects of council security procedures. How many checkpoints did they maintain? What protocols existed for handling classified information breaches? How often were access credentials audited? Just friendly curiosity from a student interested in learning about everything. By the time they reached the security offices, Kral 8 realized with growing horror that Maya Torres had just conducted a comprehensive intelligence gathering operation on their security systems, and she had done it by asking polite questions while being arrested. The interrogation room was designed to intimidate. Harsh lighting, uncomfortable seating, walls that seemed to press inward on the occupant. Maya sat in the center chair, hands folded peacefully in her lap, looking about as threatened as someone waiting for tea service. Supreme Councillor Yex Prime entered with the full weight of his authority, flanked by Intelligence Chief Grix 2 and Vex Prime. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Miss Torres, Yex Prime began, his voice carrying the gravity of someone who had never been questioned in his entire existence. We know what you are. A student? Maya replied with genuine-sounding confusion. I mean, that's what my enrollment papers say. Grix 2 slammed a data pad on the table. 4 different identities. 4 different infiltrations. You've been studying us for years. Maya leaned forward slightly to look at the data pad, her expression shifting to one of mild interest. Oh my, that does look suspicious, doesn't it? You admit it? Vex Prime nearly shouted. I admit it looks suspicious, Maya corrected gently. Though I'm curious about your intelligence-gathering methods. How did you link those identities? The biometric variations alone should have made correlation nearly impossible. The 3 council members exchanged glances. She was doing it again, asking innocent questions that revealed far too much knowledge. We're asking the questions here, Yax Prime growled. Of course you are, Maya agreed. I was just impressed by your analytical capabilities. Most species would have missed those connections entirely. Most species, Grix too repeated slowly, but not humans. Oh, humans are terrible at this sort of thing, Maya laughed. We can barely keep track of our own identities, let alone multiple false ones. Which is why I'm confused about your theory. She gestured to the data pad. If I were really running some elaborate infiltration operation, wouldn't I be better at hiding it? These connections you found, they're almost like someone wanted you to find them. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Are you suggesting, Vex Prime said carefully, that someone else is using your identity? I'm not suggesting anything, Maya replied. I'm just observing that if I were a spy, I'd probably be better at it. Unless. She paused thoughtfully. Unless being discovered was part of the plan. Supreme Counselor Yex Prime felt a chill run down his spine. What plan? Well, hypothetically, Maya said, settling back in her chair, if someone wanted to evaluate the Council's security protocols, investigative capabilities, and response procedures, staging a deliberately obvious infiltration would be one way to do it. Evaluate us? Grix 2's voice was barely a whisper. Think about it, Maya continued conversationally. In the past few hours, you've revealed your monitoring systems, your data correlation methods, your internal communication protocols, your security response procedures, and your command structure hierarchy. All because you thought you caught a spy. The 3 council members stared at her in growing horror. But here's the really interesting part, Maya went on. You found evidence of 4 previous infiltrations, right? Which means either your security is completely incompetent, or, she left the sentence hanging. Or what? Yax Prime demanded. Or someone has been testing your systems for years and you just now noticed. Vex Prime activated his emergency communicator. All senior staff to conference room Alpha, priority 1. Already? Maya asked with surprise. I haven't even finished my evaluation yet. The word evaluation hit the room like a physical blow. You're evaluating us? Grix 2's voice cracked. Well, someone is, Maya said. Whether it's me personally or just the situation I represent. Either way, you're being assessed on your response to a potential security threat. She stood up slowly, and somehow the 3 most powerful beings in the galaxy instinctively stepped back. And frankly, Maya continued, your performance has been mixed. 20 minutes later, the Council's emergency session was in full chaos. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Grand Chamber, their voices raised in panic, confusion and anger. Order, Yax Prime shouted over the din. We need order. How do we have order, demanded Councillor Vix III, when we don't even know who this human really is? More importantly, added Councillor Nex 5, who sent her. Maya Torres walked into the chamber unescorted, causing immediate silence. She moved to the center of the room and waited patiently for attention. Councillors, she said, her voice carrying clearly without amplification, I believe there's been some confusion. Confusion? Rax 9 practically shrieked. You've infiltrated our most secure facilities, accessed classified information, and revealed critical flaws in our systems. Have I? Maya asked. Let's review what actually happened. She gestured, and somehow the chamber's main display activated under her control. Data streams began flowing across the massive screen. I arrived as a registered exchange student with proper credentials. I attended scheduled classes and asked relevant questions about the subjects being taught. I accessed the archives using credentials that were provided to me through official channels. Level 7 access is not provided to students. Brin 7 protested. Then someone gave me inappropriate credentials, Maya replied reasonably, which suggests either incompetence in your administrative systems or deliberate authorization from someone with proper authority. She manipulated the display, showing the credential assignment logs. According to your own records, my access level was upgraded by Administrative Override 77 Alpha at 1432 yesterday afternoon. That's a senior executive authorization code. Every eye in the chamber turned to Yex Prime, whose face had gone completely pale. I didn't authorize any upgrade, he whispered. Then either your systems have been compromised by an outside agency, Maya said calmly, or someone on your own council has been conducting unauthorized operations. The implication hung in the air like toxic gas. Furthermore, Maya continued, the resource allocation discrepancies I identified. They've been present in your public data for at least 3 years. Any competent analyst should have noticed them. The fact that no one did suggests either massive systemic incompetence or deliberate concealment. She advanced through more displays, showing patterns of data manipulation, altered reports and suspicious correlations. The appointment statistics Professor Rax 9 couldn't explain. They're consistent with a carefully orchestrated corruption network spanning multiple departments and species. The chamber erupted in angry shouting as council members began accusing each other. Maya waited for the noise to die down. So here's what's really interesting, she said once she had their attention again. I'm just a human exchange student with basic analytical training. If I can spot these problems in a few days of casual observation, what does that say about the beings who've been managing these systems for decades? The silence was deafening. Which brings us to the real question, Maya continued. Am I here to spy on you, or are you failing so spectacularly that even a primitive human can see through your incompetence? Supreme Counselor Yex Prime rose slowly from his seat, his massive frame trembling with either rage or fear. What do you want? He asked quietly. Want? Maya looked surprised. I don't want anything. I'm just here to learn. Learn what? How the most advanced civilization in the galaxy managed to become so corrupt and inefficient that it's basically a galactic joke. The insult hit like a slap. Several council members started to protest, but Maya held up a hand. Oh, don't take my word for it. Let me show you something interesting. The display changed to show communication intercepts, diplomatic cables and intelligence reports from dozens of species. These are just a sampling of what other civilizations say about the Council when they think no one is listening. Would you like me to read some highlights? She cleared her throat theatrically. From the Arcturus Trade Federation, Council resource management is so predictably corrupt that we build the bribes into our initial budget proposals. From the Vegan Scientific Collective, Council oversight is a paper exercise. They haven't conducted a meaningful audit in 40 years. From the Centauri Defense Alliance, Council security is so compromised that we assume all classified information shared with them will be public within a week. Each quote hit the chamber like a physical blow. Should I continue? Maya asked sweetly. I have about 300 more examples. How did you get those intercepts? Grix 2 demanded. I didn't get them, Maya replied. They were provided to me through my level 7 access credentials, which someone on this council authorized. She turned to address the entire chamber, which means either you have a traitor among you or your security is so pathetic that a human student can accidentally stumble into your most sensitive intelligence files. The accusations and counter-accusations that followed were spectacular. Council members who had worked together for decades turned on each other with savage fury. Old grudges surfaced, secret deals were exposed, and carefully maintained alliances crumbled in minutes. Maya watched the chaos with professional interest, occasionally taking notes on a small pad. Finally, Yex Prime restored some semblance of order by threatening to activate the chamber's security fields. "Miss Torres," he said, his voice heavy with defeat, "what would it take for you to keep this information confidential?" Maya looked genuinely puzzled. "Keep it confidential? Why would I do that?" "To prevent diplomatic complications." "Counselor," Maya said gently, "this information isn't secret. Most of it came from your own public databases. The intelligence intercepts were in your own files. The resource allocation problems are visible to anyone who bothers to look." She gestured around the chamber. "The only people who didn't know about these problems were you." The truth of that statement settled over the council like a suffocating blanket. "So what happens now?" Vex Prime asked weakly. Maya checked her chronometer. "Well, my exchange program officially ends tomorrow. I'll submit my final report to the Human Educational Council, pack my things and head home." "And your report will say?" Maya smiled that same innocent smile she'd worn since her arrival. "That the Galactic Council's educational exchange program is very educational." She headed toward the chamber exit, then paused and turned back. "Oh, and counselors, you might want to check your communication logs from the past 3 days. I'm pretty sure someone's been broadcasting live feeds of these proceedings to about 40 different news networks across the galaxy." The stunned silence that followed her departure was broken only by the soft chime of incoming priority messages flooding every council member's personal communicators. As Maya Torres walked back to her quarters to pack, she reflected on the successful completion of her mission. The Human Diplomatic Corps had suspected the council was becoming increasingly unstable and corrupt, but they'd needed concrete evidence and a comprehensive assessment of the situation. The exchange student program had been the perfect cover. Who would suspect a simple academic visit of being a sophisticated intelligence operation? Of course, Maya wasn't really Maya Torres. That identity would be retired after this mission, just like the 4 previous ones. Her real name was classified at levels that didn't officially exist, and her actual job title would make most council members physically ill if they knew it. But that wasn't important now. What mattered was that the galaxy's supposedly most advanced civilization had just publicly demonstrated that they couldn't tell the difference between a student and a spy, couldn't spot massive corruption in their own systems, and couldn't maintain basic operational security even when they knew they were being watched. The political fallout would reshape galactic diplomacy for generations. And the best part, they'd done it all to themselves. Maya had simply asked questions and pointed out inconsistencies. Everything else had been their own paranoia, incompetence and mutual mistrust. As she sealed her travel bag, Maya allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the most effective weapon against a corrupt system wasn't force or subterfuge. Sometimes it was just holding up a mirror. Her shuttle would depart in 6 hours, carrying her back to Earth and a debriefing with very interested superiors. Behind her, she left a galactic government in complete chaos, dozens of criminal investigations just beginning, and the growing realization among other species that humans might be far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. After all, what's more terrifying than an enemy who can destroy you with superior firepower? An enemy who can destroy you by simply asking the right questions. The council had thought she was there to learn from them. They'd been wrong about that too.